Whoa, 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 whoa. Cut the music. Cut the music. Cut the music. Hold on. Johnny Aase.
Did we are we in the 1994 Madison Square Garden in the middle of the ring right now?
Well, we really have to talk about closers of the past?
Gear up, because we're going to be talking about the biggest nightmare of every Mets fan every year.
I need a drink. Hold on. Hello, everybody. This is Ray Hernandez, and I'm joined by Johnny Aase for another episode of Behind the Bag. John, I don't know why I'm screaming like this. It's like Anchorman.
I think it's because you're at Friday night and I'm at Saturday afternoon, so you're trying to scream across the time divide there. But we're here. It's Saturday afternoon, and we are ready to go. I mean, this is great. I've got some energy today, right?
Yeah, well, that's what happens when the sunlight's out. Unfortunately we had to reschedule because of your popularity. That's right. I had there must have been a car parade in front of my house or something, because those are the things we do these days. Just drop it down to 5 mph and throw me something out the window. Fair enough. Well, the good news, John, my man, because we're doing this on Saturday, we get to talk about the Twitter beef between Noah Syndergaard and whatever that guy's name is.
Yeah, we are not going to name that starting pitcher until his agent comes on our show.
You keep campaigning, but let me tell you, hats off to Thor, man. It is baseball season, Johnny Aase.
We're bringing it on social media, and as a worried Met fan, it always worries me to get involved in these things. What was it? The old team to beat with the Phillies back in 06, 7, 8. Oh my goodness.
Yes,
but
we're the team to beat.
At least he's not within the division, I guess, is what you could say.
Again, it's just it's going to be an exciting NLCS this year. I'm looking forward to it. And speaking of things that I'm looking forward to, on our Twitter feed, we ran a poll, BTB podcast 2 on Twitter, follow us around, but we ran a poll to say, hey, this week we are talking about closers and, fill-in closers, because there have been quite a few. Who has given you the most agita or most heartburn?
Heartburn. Yeah.
But
who has given you the most heartburn?
And a resounding 53% of the audience cite Armando Benitez, who unfortunately we will have to talk about today.
Yeah, and for the audience, just like quick math, 53% translates to about 1.3 million people. So there was a lot of participation in our Twitter poll this week.
Yes.
So look out for it next week also, because
I'm just excited someone actually responded. I mean, we're moving. We're growing this following.
We're here. You're here. Come on, guys, jump on board. We're going straight to the moon. Maybe not Mars yet, but we're going to the moon.
Speaking of going to the moon, I think we have to, as we've done the last couple of weeks, at least start with a recap of the week that was in Mets Twitterland. Not Mets Twitterland. It might as well have been Mets Twitterland, because that is quite engaging, the conversations. Let me tell you, Metsland, lots going on this week.
Well, I was gonna just go off that transition there and say, coming back to Earth, let's talk about what we messed up last week.
That's fair. That's fair. Yes. You see, folks, we play with an open hand here.
That's right.
Editing be damned.
That's right.
Play with an open hand.
Unnecessary to edit this stuff out. So I went on a mini ramble. I think I need some ginkgo in my life about a Joey Galloway, who was a wide receiver. Joey Gathright was the speedster I was thinking about, who played on Tampa Bay. Went back, looked at his stats. Very small sampling. Seemed like he was very fast, but got caught stealing a lot. So that was my bad. And then there was a quick "That's What Friends Are For" reference. Ray did shout out Diana Ross, who is one of the original divas. but that honor goes to our own Psychic Friends Network's Dionne Warwick. So that's all right. You know, we're humble pie.
Fun. Humble pie. That's what we do today, and that's what we do on this podcast. And speaking of, because everything happens in threes, I referenced Andy Tomberlin, which, by the way, I was correct. All right, for the record,
that makes one of us. Yeah.
Yes, Mookie Wilson Day. I was there, and Andy Tomberlin didn't have the walk-off hit. He had the game-tying hit, a double, and he scored the game-winning run. So, he was still a big part of that. I wasn't totally off base. And they played the Giants, not the Expos, like I said. But hey, that doesn't matter. Andy Tomberlin, wherever you are, I apologize and congratulations. You have now been named twice in this podcast.
I think he would say there is no rally without the Tomberlin. So there you go.
There it is.
Andy Tomberlin. Also, quickly, when we were trying to trash talk whoever had replaced Mookie Wilson at first base coach, we did confirm it was the battler, Art Howe himself. So 2003 was Art Howe. Blame stays with Art Howe for that one.
Gary Pettis. Oh,
unnecessary.
Jeez. I got nothing. Silence.
We don't need to talk anymore. Yeah.
I don't know if I should get a Blue Jays hat or not. The Mets Blue Jays connection. I did intern for the AA affiliate of the Toronto Blue Jays, as I've noted many times in the archives. But with the signing of Kevin Pillar this week, I think that brings us to like 5 former Toronto Blue Jays now.
Yeah, and I feel like it all started with the R.A. Dickey trade. I think that's when the relations began with our great friends in the North, and it's just continued on.
Absolutely. So now we got Stroman, Taijuan Walker, who we'll talk about in a second. That's 2. Kevin Pillar. We signed Villar. That's 4. I think there's a 5th one. My man, the new reliever that we now like after his quote about being an opener.
I know. Loop. I forget.
Is it Loop? How do you pronounce his name?
Lope?
Is it Loop? We're gonna have to get behind that. But man, he is my new hero.
Well, it's good. We already have one correction for next week, so we're always thinking ahead. But all I'll say, the Taijuan Walker and those types of signings can never have too much pitching. Let's stack it up. Let's let them compete in spring training. Let's have some backup plans. Let's have some safety nets. We know it's inevitable, so can never have too much pitching.
Absolutely. I was looking at that AAA, that projected AAA Mets roster. We might have to go up to Syracuse, man. They're stacked.
I'm down. Road trip, here we come. I'm sure maybe we'll get one of those dollar hot dog nights in a minor league ballpark.
I wouldn't mind dollar beer night, but anyway. And then I guess, one other thing we would be remiss not to talk about is finally Tim Tebow, calling it quits. I shouldn't say finally. That's not right. You got to give him a lot of credit for battling and following his heart and dream. But there's just no place for him and stepped away.
I do give him credit for dealing with and going through the whole minor league process and the minor league spring training. So definitely, props there to Tim Tebow, and also knew when to hang it up. I really think, especially the Wilpons were waiting and hoping he'd turn it on just to do that little September Tebow call up to get some butts in the seats, but he just never hit enough really to make that happen.
Yeah. I saw him play in AA. I actually tweeted out a picture. It's I guess, maybe things will be different now that we've got this podcast, but, I saw him in Hartford as the visiting team. Is one of the reasons why I wanted to go. I wanted to go just to see the Binghamton Mets, but all eyes, all attention on Tim Tebow. Pictures taken with Tebow, not me and him, but just pictures of him on the field and everything. I did take a picture of the scoreboard and or the lineup, and it's pretty bad when I looked at it, years later, to see that Jeff McNeil and some guy named Peter Alonso were in the lineup, and I don't have any recollection of either player.
Yeah, you were too busy following around Tim Tebow, who I think outside of Michael Jordan may have been the most popular
AA
minor league player. Yeah.
You know, total separate topic on that same night. I met Terry Collins. I have my picture with Terry Collins that night.
Oh, TC. Okay.
TC was there in Hartford. You know, you never know what you're going to see in a minor league game. Yeah, man, he was awesome. You know, he was gracious with taking a picture, gracious with chatting up for a couple of minutes. And it was really cool.
We miss Terry. We really do. What a guy. What a coach.
For all we know, he was really scouting Peter Alonso and under the guise just looking at Tebow, you know?
It's true. That's what you should have been doing, but you know, alas.
Speaking of what should have been doing, what do you say we talk about closers who didn't exactly close, or maybe they did, but without giving us that true heartburn, agita, and Rolaids? I think my first ulcer is related to a New York Met closer.
Yeah, we just never seem to be able to get it right. But, you know, in doing the research, there were closers before closer was a thing and before saves were a stat that was kind of followed and tracked. So we do have a glorious history of closer type pitchers.
Yeah.
Before you get to those late 80s, you know, between Tug and the Coos. And of course, that iconic shot of Jesse Orosco after Game 7 of the '86 World Series.
Yeah.
So we have the history there.
And you know, it's so crazy when you think about how saves have changed. I mean, you look back at some of those, even the late 80s games. I mean, you know, some of these closers had to pitch like 3 innings. There really wasn't a 1 inning closer. We would have to do a little research to see where did that really start to take effect, you know, maybe sometime in the late 80s, early 90s. But yeah, if you look at that 86 team, like it's not uncommon to see Orosco or Roger McDowell pitch, you know, 2 2/3 innings, just enough to not get the save. But you realize it kind of is the closer.
Yeah, and I think it started with Lee Smith. I think it was somewhere around the Lee Smith era that saves started being tracked. But I think a save is technically 3 innings pitched, right? So that's kind of like the history of the save. Well, when it's more than a 3-run lead, 3 innings pitch, I guess is the kind of details there.
Yeah. That's like the hardcore save. Then you've got like, you know, a full complete inning at the end to wrap up the game.
Right.
It could be a save situation if the tying run is on deck. I mean, I don't know. You know, bottom line is it's been an interesting evolution. I think Randy Myers is someone we don't really talk about much. Kind of that transition between the glory days of John Franco and the glory days of Jesse Orosco and McDowell, and then the bridge to Franco, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But he was a pretty good closer, but I think he really made his name when he was in Cincinnati.
Yeah, I agree.
Nasty boys.
The other thing I remember of Roger McDowell, and I don't know if you remember this, but Rock and Jock Baseball on MTV.
Yes.
He was always the like zany pitcher. Yeah. With like the clown wigs on and stuff. And to think about that had to be 10 years after this, or, you know, 8 to 10 years after this. But all of you youngsters out there, you are missing out. If you look up Rock and Jock, they did basketball. They did softball. Big Daddy Cool Diesel was on the baseball team, and Pamela Anderson. I mean, it was a thing.
It was. But you know, John, I got to tell. I'm taking a deep breath here because
I've been putting this off. I know there's something you want to get to here.
I threw this out on Twitter.
Stay tuned for rant, everybody. Stay tuned for rant.
I am going to rant. The first time that I ever got my heart broken at Shea Stadium was by Don Aase. I don't know if we're ever going to say that name again on this podcast. John, do you have any memories of Don Aase?
I'm actually being careful to say Don Aase's name right now. I don't want us to get banned on YouTube if it gets picked up the wrong way.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, 6-year-old me. I mean, this is the '89 season Don Aase, right? And we talked about this last week. Yeah, we're because of the age. Am I 7? Am I 6? Because my birthday is in October. I'm going to say 6-year-old me, just to keep it clean.
First of all, to your point, I think I didn't like him because his name sounded like ass. And if YouTube bans me for saying that, then fine. But I used to think that it was a funny name, Don Aase, right? And anyway, I was at the game, 1989. First of all, the 89 Mets, I think, is well documented in the sense that that was really the end of an era. Earlier in the year, they trade McDowell, they trade Dykstra to Philly for your band, Juan Samuel.
Yeah.
You're coming off the heels of the 88 season which we talked about last week in the Mookie Wilson episode, losing to the Dodgers in the NLCS. Gary Carter breaks down, out for 2 months. Keith fractures his knee, out for 2 months. So it really was a team of transition, but just one thing after the other. As I was looking at this a little bit deeper, though, the August timeframe, they really started to make a run. They won 15 of the last 19 games heading into this game that I was at with my grandfather. Beautiful Sunday afternoon. I could still remember, I don't know if you've been to Shea Stadium, back in the day, they had the banners in the on the outfield wall, but they also had the advertisements, and it was like Charlie Chips. I think I remember seeing that. I think that's what they would call it, Charlie Chips. It was like a brown logo. Anyway, random memories, but I'm at this game. I think the Mets are maybe 2.5 out of first place, trying to make a run, winning 15 of the last 19. They're up 4-1, 4-2, something along those lines. Don Aase's in to close the game. Randy Myers is our closer. I'm not exactly sure why he wasn't pitching. Maybe he wasn't available. Maybe he partied too much Saturday night with Darryl. I don't know. And, there's a base hit. There's an out. And then just you hear the sound of the bat. Willie Randolph. Yes, that Willie Randolph hits a shot to right field, and he hits a 2-run homer to give the Dodgers the lead. And here's what I remember about that. First of all, it was Willie Randolph's first home run of the season. All right. Right-handed hitter, goes to right
going
field.
The other way in Shea Stadium. Yeah.
Don Aase just had to destroy me.
Who's 0 for 4. And he hits a fly ball deep to right field. Strawberry on the track. Gone! A home run! And the Dodgers take the lead. I don't believe what we just saw. An opposite field home run by Willie Randolph. His first home run of the year. And it's an opposite field shot.
We were sitting like in the green boxes. So mezzanine,
yeah.
Great seats right behind the Dodgers dugout. I remember seeing Tommy Lasorda, may he rest in peace, jumping up and down out of the dugout. The people around me are yelling, screaming. Now remember, I'm 6 years old, right? So you can't, but there's profanity. There's, my grandfather, it is broken English. La pichar carajo. And so as a 6-year-old, of course I do what any 6-year-old would do. I start booing from the top of my lungs. No! Like that's going to change anything. And Mets lose that game. And that really they never really recovered that season after that game. Leaving Shea Stadium, that was really the first time that I left Shea Stadium dejected, heartbroken. I remember my grandfather took me to McDonald's afterwards, got a nice Happy Meal just to try to cheer me up.
The little Transformer toy in the Happy Reel really put a bow on that day, I'm sure.
Scarred for life. Let me just level set, okay? It's not just it's getting me all upset here. But let me just level set. Don Aase in the 89 season. First of all, Don Aase was an all-star, believe it or not, with the Baltimore Orioles in 1986.
34 saves.
Yeah, 30. Thank you, John. Thank you.
34 saves.
I can't even talk. Thank you. Just throw the numbers out there. 34 saves, 82 saves for his career. But he gets to the Mets, 89, 1-5, probably because he blew at least 5 games, if not more. 3.94 ERA, which quite frankly is pretty good for today's standards. Sign him up. But, second half of the season, his ERA is 6. Against the Dodgers, he's 0-1. Guess where that one loss is? The game that I was at. What is 7.20 ERA in 4 games? Dodgers had his number. Couldn't close. I'm done. This episode's over.
You know what it sounds like Ray needs? Rolaids. Because I'm a little worried about Ray right now. But Rolaids, for those of you who don't know, they sponsored the Relief Man of the Year award back in the 80s, 90s in Major League Baseball. I think eventually it turned into some sort of DHL award. Who knows what it is now? It's probably the TikTok award.
Hartford. I think it is the Hartford. I think the Hartford.
Oh, like the Hartford, yeah.
The Hartford.
Sponsored by the Hartford. So
to
right
our
there.
friends out there, if you're an employee at the Hartford, thank you so much.
Also, if you'd like to advertise and you work for Rolaids, Tums, the Hartford DHL, Tom's Toolbox at the corner, we'll take anything. But do you know, Ray, who the 1988 Rolaids Relief Man of the Year award winner was?
No idea. Don Aase.
Don Aase, I think, handed John Franco the award when he won it in 1988 as a player for the Cincinnati Reds. So that brings us into the somewhat modern day discussion of our closers. And folks, buckle up, have a drink, because it is not going to be an easy ride.
Can I just say one more thing? One final thing on Don Aase, please.
Let it out.
Because this is therapy. This is therapy. If I watched that clip, and it's amazing that it's actually on on YouTube. All right. Lenny Harris is one of the people that scores on Willie Randolph's home run. It's like all the Mets of the future. Damn you, Don Aase.
It really does go full circle with Willie Randolph and Lenny Harris, but we're moving on here, guys. We're trying. Right. We're dragging this across. We've established that the Rolaids Relief Man of the Year award winner in 1988 was John Franco. He was not on the Mets at the time. He was on the Reds. And how did the Mets acquire John Franco? Well, him and good old Don Brown were traded to the Mets from the Reds for the aforementioned Randy Myers and Kip Gross.
Hey, there you go.
They were trying to make amends. Yeah, they were making amends.
They were like, we need a real closer.
There's only so many times Ray's grandfather can take him to McDonald's. So let's try and get these Metsies a better reliever. So they went out and got the best in the business.
Who do you
number
think?
31.
What out? Before we go too far here, who do you think got the better end of that deal? Looking back now that we're 30 years removed, the Reds or the Mets?
I remember seeing how great Randy Myers was on the Reds, but as like a icon for the team,
the nasty boys.
I think John Franco means more to his team.
That's fair.
That's fair. Legend wise, but I think as performance wise for a shorter period of time or whatever, I think Randy Myers probably was a better pitcher. I just ducked from the virtual beanball coming my way.
It's a great debate, but no, you're right. You're right. From a longevity standpoint and meaning for a team, definitely. As we go through some of the highlights here, I didn't realize in his first year as a Met that he won the Rolaids Relief Man of the Year in 1990.
Right. Yeah.
So there's that, and he led the league in saves in 90 and 94.
Yeah.
I didn't even, that's the 94 lead. That's impressive because the 94 team wasn't very good before the strike. Yeah. I think they won like maybe 60 games. So what did he do? Save 40 of them? I mean,
that's pretty, he probably saved, 80% of the games that they won, which is very impressive. It continues the John Franco.
Do you have any early memories? I know we're going to talk a little bit more about his mid 90s, late 90s and that sort of thing, but do you have any early memories of John Franco in that 90, 91, 92, 93?
No, a lot of it went back to the baseball card thing. And I remember being surprised that he was on the Reds before because I was just kind of getting really into baseball at the time. And so I just knew him as a Met and then would see him on the Reds, and he had a decent career with the Reds before he got to the Mets. But I never really had those early memories of John Franco. So maybe maybe that's my fault that all of my John Franco memories are these like mid 90s and beyond. But, it sounds like he was a great closer.
Yeah. No, and that's true. Like, just watch him. But again, I even back then, like I told you stories, like my grandfather, we would watch every game. That's part of my growing up in the summer and whatnot. But him coming out to, go Johnny, go, and my grandfather making fun of him when he would blow a save. Go Johnny, go to the toilet, Johnny.
Imagine nowadays someone coming out to go Johnny, go. Johnny be good. It would just be like, it's kind of like when the closers went through that time period and everybody had the long mustache and the mean mug and everything. Imagine your closer coming out to Johnny be good.
Well, that was the thing, and you bring up a good point, because yes, I think closers, especially in that era, were like scary. Like you think about a Rod Beck with the the mullet and the I don't know what that's called, the Fu Manchu.
The Fu Manchu, yeah. The handlebars.
John Franco always had the nice trimmed mustache. He was definitely a Staten Island's own.
Yeah. He wasn't like Mitch Williams. He wasn't Wild Thing coming out.
Exactly.
He was just a nice, friendly guy that you think after the game you'll show some Pinot Noir with or something like that. Just quick fact check. So John Franco had 30 saves in 94, and the Mets only had 55 wins under Dallas Green.
All right. Hey, John, I was close.
Half.
I said 60. I was pretty close there.
You get the patch next episode.
Oh, thank you.
We're giving out patches.
Hey, listen, that 94 team, that was the 25th year, and I think they had a patch on that team. For some reason, I think their jerseys had a patch in 94.
Goodness,
I'm gonna have to look it up.
Oh, we could actually have an episode on patches, because you've got the 69 team and the 86 team where it's every 5 to 10 years we'll go with a patch.
Yeah.
Soon we're going to have, I don't know, we didn't have a 10-year Citi Field patch, did we? See,
no.
That would have been a thing to do. They missed out on that.
Well, the Wilpons were broke at that point, so
they're just gonna they come up with reasons for. I remember, what was it in 2002? It was the Shea Stadium.
The Shea Stadium one was awesome. That was like the 25th anniversary.
That was that Mo Vaughn era, baby.
Yeah.
So they'll go with anything, really.
That could be a cool episode. Listen, one of the best memories, or one of the more earlier memories, or at least funny stories, is John Franco getting thrown out on John Franco Day.
That brought me back to oh my goodness, the Billy Chrystal movie where he is the
City Slickers.
Yeah, no, where he's the referee. And he kicks Kareem Abdul-Jabbar out of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar Day.
I know
it's the one where he only eats veal parmesan or something like that. Oh my god, it's so great. But yes, John Franco. So he didn't get kicked out of John Franco Day.
Okay,
but
it was memorable.
It was memorable, and somehow Ray was there.
I wasn't there. I wasn't.
You weren't there.
I wasn't there. I just remember that game. I remember that game. First of all, I think back to that. That was the big brawl with the Cubs. I think that was like Scott Service and Pete Harnish that started
Pete
the brawl.
Harnish, Scott Service behind the plate. Very rare, by the way, that you get the catcher getting into it. Usually they're just. I guess Pete Harnish was having none of his squashing the beef from Scott Service.
Nope. And this was probably one of the more iconic brawls that I remember from like the 90s, 2000s.
Now Pete Harnish walking toward the mound, and here comes the Mets dugout, and now the Cubs dugout, and now the fighting starts. Scott Service and Pete Harnish. And this is for real. Well, they went at it hard, and now the pile-up. Here come the bullpens. Turk Wendell leading the Cubs charge. Laz Minor getting in there for the Mets.
It's just this image. If you look at the clip, go on YouTube, you'll find it. This image of Blas Minor, number 34, just literally stomping on somebody with his spikes. I don't know when we'll ever talk about Blas Minor again on this podcast. Do you have any Blas Minor memories?
No, that would be about it for Blas Minor. Let me tell you,
he was a reliever. Actually, did pretty well with the Mets in 96, 95, 96. But that's not exactly the most memorable. That, to your point, might be the highlight of his career. But the cool thing about that game was that it was a walk-off. I think it was a Saturday afternoon game, and I think it was Rico Bronya who hit a home run. I don't know if it was a solo shot or not, but home run to right field. I remember seeing Sammy Sosa like leap and not make it. It was very much in the corner of the bullpen, like between where underneath the Armtrack sign, whatever that
Armatron.
Yes, it was like, it wasn't a shot. It was like barely made it into a home run. But yes, that's what I remember from that game.
Oh man, I missed the Armatron sign. Well, a couple things. Pete Harnisch, I never liked, and then I saw this clip, and I'm like, all right, Pete Harnisch, you're kind of, walking up the stairs of that's history for me. Was never a fan of Pete Harnisch. I don't know if it was the era that he pitched in and how bad they were during that time period.
Yeah,
but
I think that was a big part of it.
And the other thing too, the movie was Forget Paris.
Forget Paris. There
Forget
you go.
Paris. Billy Chrystal and Deborah Winger. That was Billy Chrystal played a ref, and I just remember it because he had a bad date the night before, and he kicked Kareem Abdul-Jabbar out of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar farewell game.
Technical foul. Who's shooting? For what? For what? Do you want another one? Do you want another one?
What did I say? Just because you're having a bad game, don't take it out on me.
You're out of here, Kareem.
What are you nuts? This is my farewell game.
Oh, go. Well, let me be the first to say farewell. Get out of here.
And Kareem Abdul-Jabbar said that. He said, but it's my farewell game. And Billy Chrystal said, let me be the first to say farewell.
Going back to John Franco, I think here's some seasons that will probably exemplify the heartburn, right? So 91, 30 saves, solid, right? 30 saves. His record was 5-9. So you've got to figure, okay, maybe he came into a couple of games that were tied, fine, but I think there were a couple of blown saves in there.
What was his ERA that year?
2.93.
See, that's why I was going to rewind and I didn't want to go back to even reference Don Aase, but I didn't want to reference Don Aase.
Don't you do that if you know what's good for you.
As a closer, 3.94, all you have to do is give up a run and mess it up as a closer. So
that's fair.
Anything above like high twos is probably not great as a closer.
That's right, because you're only in for one inning and a shot.
I digress.
Then you go to 94. We talked about, he 30 saves out of 55 wins, right? 1-4. So okay, not terrible. 98, 38 saves, an 0-8 record.
61 games.
But it was
38 saves.
0-8. That's at least eight times that you said, Johnny, no.
No, Johnny, no.
Go, Johnny, go.
Walk out and keep walking, Johnny. Keep on walking.
One of my favorite games, actually going back to that, I'll reference Andy Tomerlin again, but the Mookie Wilson day. John Franco got tossed from that game.
Was that the balk thing? Was that when he was arguing about the balk call? Because I saw that online, and
I can't say if it was the balk or not. All I know is I think the pitch before he was pretty sure he got a called strike three. Umpire didn't call it strike three. The next pitch, the guy hits a double, and the Giants take the lead. And then when he got out of the inning, like John Franco's just MFing the ump. I mean, we were sitting in the loge seats. I'm pretty sure I heard it all. And he got tossed.
That's the way to do it though. If you already know you're coming out, I mean, get your money's worth. That's the best. That's the best, really. You may as well unload on the way out because who cares? You're already hitting the showers. But looking at the saves, it was really 98 was that last big year for John Franco, and then it really, really fell off. I mean, it was drastic after 98.
Now, did we got Benitez in 2000, not 99, right? Or did we get him in 99?
99.
We got him in 99. So that kind of makes sense because that was where, okay, we're going to bring in Benitez to be the closer of the future. Franco becomes the setup man. I think Franco had some injuries in 99. but
yeah, he only appeared in 46 games in 1999.
And then you just start to see him tail off, which, it happens.
But I tell you what, we don't want to, get too far into Benitez now, but the fact that John Franco had 19 saves in 1999 is probably pretty telling of
Mr.
who would
Armando.
succeed him. Yeah, for sure.
That is fair. That is fair.
But in that 99 season, when he was the setup man for Benitez, he did register his 400th save, which is a significant milestone in the career.
Nice story. Left-hander John Franco, born and brought up Brooklyn, New York. Played his collegiate ball at St. John's, and could save his 400th game at Shea Stadium. Great story.
Puck number 400 in the books for John Franco.
Absolutely. It was interesting too. He was the last, 31, and when Piazza comes in, he gives up his number. I wonder how much Mike had to pay him. There's probably
a Rolex
some sort of
something. Oh yeah, it's a Rolex and like at the time a Porsche or something. Nowadays it would be like a boat and a condo somewhere, but Rolex at the time was sufficient for the number swap. Yeah, and then he became 45, right? That was
in honor of Tug McGraw. And I think what was really cool. I mean, I know we talked about this in the archives, but I would say a couple of things. In 2000, saved our bacon when Armando couldn't close the deal in the Giants series. And
yes.
Two, I just say, one of the lasting images for me personally is the image of Franco being on someone's shoulders and waving his T-shirt with "Who Let the Dogs Out" in the background, and finally hitting the pinnacle of going to the World Series after seeing 2000. That it's almost a 15-year career by that point.
Yeah, that was extra special to see, John Franco celebrating like that. And it kind of goes back to when we were talking about Randy Myers versus John Franco.
Yep.
It took that long for John Franco, but that's the one person as a fan that you really feel for. And it's like, this is great. I mean, it stinks that it's happening so late in his career, but
yep. Oh, definitely. And then in 2001, he becomes the captain. And so a fun fact, I was at the game, his first game as captain. I just miraculously, that was a Friday night against Arizona. I went, my grandfather and my dad, one of the rare times that I went to a game with my dad. And it was the end of my freshman year at Quinnipiac. I'll always remember it because I, had like a final that day before, left Friday morning, drove back from Quinnipiac to New York. So it's that feeling of like, hey, I'm home for the summer, getting ready to work for Stu Leonard's, I'm
That's
an adult
right.
now, baby. But that first night, having that special treat of going to a game with my grandfather and dad, and may or may not have had a, beer or two in the parking lot. Even though I was underage, but damn it, I was a college student, so it was okay.
I think your father probably wanted to go beer for you. He wanted to see what you really learned up there in Quinnipiac.
That was a fun game. That was a fun game because we had awesome seats, field level, third base side. Shinjo was like a pinch runner, so he didn't start that game, but he was like a
Shuyoshi Shinjo.
Yeah, he was like a defensive replacement. And I remember because we were so close, it was pretty cool to see Shinjo in person because like he had these orange like wristbands and he was waving at the crowd and very much a flair for the dramatic.
I love Shinjo. He kind of reminded me of a major league, kind of one of those players from the movie. He was so awesome. I was like, one thing I was wondering, and in baseball, outside of New York, is captainship even like a thing? Or it just seems like in New York with the Yankees and the Mets, it's this big, pomp and circumstance around being captain. And maybe it's just because we're here, but I feel like, football's different because I guess there's always a captain, or two or three. In baseball, it's just like this big, ceremony. It seems like, at least in New York.
Absolutely. And by the way, just I'm looking at Baseball Reference, just to highlight the John Franco era. That game, Rick Reed pitched a masterpiece, 8 innings, 2 earned runs. John Franco gets the save, his first save of the season. However, to get to that save, here's his line. You ready? 1 inning pitch, 2 hits, no runs, 2 strikeouts, and 28 pitches thrown. A typical John Franco outing.
Those are the crooked numbers. As a pitcher, you don't want the crooked numbers. As a hitter, you want the crooked numbers. But yeah, he liked to get his pitches in, I think is what happened.
Oh, man. I'm looking. They played the Diamondbacks. Armando Reynoso, former Met pitcher, he pitched. Miguel Batista, former Met pitcher, was on the mound in relief. Russ Springer. Why do I feel like he was a Met?
I don't think he was, but he must have been very young then, Russ Springer.
Yeah, maybe it's Dennis Springer that I'm thinking about. There was a knuckleball pitcher named Springer that was a Met for like 1 game,
really,
maybe 2 games in 2000. Let me look this up. Well, you carry us on while I
in the meantime, we just talked about the '99 season, so that's when John Franco recorded his 400th save. He actually ended his career with 424. He's 5th all time, so I mean, not too shabby. 99 season was memorable, and that brought us to 2000, which maybe one of John Franco's most memorable at bats was in the NLDS of 2000. I mean, striking out Barry Bonds, I can't get better than that.
Now the Giants down to their final out, but a confrontation about to ensue with Barry Bonds standing in against John Franco. Bonds waiting, choking up on the bat from the left side. Miller set to run. 3-2 pitch. On the inside corner, strike 3 called. The ball game is over. Franco strikes out Barry Bonds with a 3-2 off-speed pitch, and the Mets have won the ball game.
In the year 2000.
Yeah, and that actually speaks to his, he could have sulked, and maybe he did sulk about losing his closership, but he was there when we needed him in 2000. Speaking of 2000, I just looked it up. It's Dennis Springer, knuckleball pitcher for the Mets. 2 games, 0-1 with an ERA of 8.74. So no wonder that he did not last long. But
may as well have been Jerry Springer on the mound with those numbers.
He's
good old 2000.
All right. Definitely. Anyway, so there you go.
So yeah, I always thought he was a competitor, and I don't know. I didn't really track him that much later on in his career. I think the injuries really caught up to him, but he's someone that maybe if he transitioned to like a lefty specialist earlier on, he may have had a longer career and maybe would have bounced around a little more too. But he was always a competitor, and that's what I loved about. And the celebrations afterwards too just showed how much feeling he had for the game.
Oh, definitely, and he was a big part of the New York recovery after 9/11. Obviously, losing many friends and family members, or at least friends. That's well documented. He was the heart of New York. He represented New York. I think that's the way to think about it. Is that and when you look at his stats, I mean, it's a 20-year career. I don't know how much longer you could possibly extend his career anyway. So there's that.
And to lead the league all time in saves by a left-hander. I mean, that's pretty awesome. So in we talked about his 2000, his big strikeout of Bonds, 2001. That's when he was named the team captain. So he would end up being the 3rd in team history, the 4th overall until, I don't know, Pete Alonso gets it in 2022 or something like that. But that was Gary Carter and Keith Hernandez before John Franco. And then it ended up being David Wright in 2013.
Yep.
So I don't know if there's a curse associated with that. I don't want to look at the years associated with when these.
No, you're right. Don't do it.
Captains.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
But I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's a good history after captainship.
Don't do it. No,
if that's a word, captainship. I like
All
that.
right, let's move on before we jinx it. And
that's right.
I have a special request, John.
Yeah.
This section, can we just try to keep this as tight as possible? Because I'm just it's gonna kill me to just
Rolaids on deck for this one.
Ugh. Armando, Mr. Gout himself.
Too much seafood, Armando.
You know what? It was awesome when we got Benitez in '99. It was an interesting trade, three-way trade, where Todd Hudley goes to the Dodgers. Charles Johnson, who he just acquired, goes to the Orioles. Armando. One of my earlier memories of Armando was the big fight where he threw the ball at Strawberry.
Yeah.
And so when I found out that we were getting him, I remember being like, ugh. It's just something about him that just had that. I don't know.
Meltdown in the making always. So,
but he brought the heat, man. He did bring the heat.
And at the time, that was super special. I think that's important to remember. Nowadays, everybody throws 98 and above. But at that time, there was only specific guys, and it was only closers, and you kind of dealt with their, inaccuracies at time and slipping here and there because they were just lockdown guys. So that's why it's a little different this day and age. You've got your openers or whatever, and you've got other guys only pitching 4 innings at a time so they can keep up the heat. So it was a different era, but definitely some beanballs that went around before he was a Met that got him, I think, a little bit of a reputation.
Yes. And I think, you had this note here. Really interesting. I didn't realize, he blew the lead. I knew he blew the lead. Well, there's 2000, but 99. I didn't realize he's the one that blew the lead for Game 4 of the NLDS.
With the speed of Benitez's pitches.
Oh, Bell slugs it to left field. Moore is in the corner. It's off the wall. Ward scores. Womack scores. Bell is into second. 3-2 Diamondbacks.
Yeah, and I guess that's kind of like, the ultimate deodorant piece. Todd Pratt ended up bailing him out.
Yeah.
So you don't remember how you got there unless you're a tried and true, unless you were Ray at the game, and Ray would be able to tell you the play-by-play of what happened. But I think that's what happens there is if Todd Pratt doesn't have his late game heroics, we would be talking more about that Benitez game. And that's before the 2000 game that he needed to be bailed out by Mr. Franco. So
it's crazy. But he might be the prototypical solid reliever or shutdown reliever in the regular season that can't get it done in the postseason. Because I'm looking at his stats. 22 saves in 99. His ERA was 1.85, so might as well be untouchable. 41 saves in 2000, 43 saves in 2001. Although, of course, the Brian Jordan game. So there's that.
The most important one, exactly.
And for the folks that don't know, like after 9/11, Mets go on a little bit of a run. They play the Braves that weekend. We all know about the Piazza homer. They win the Saturday game. They are leading the Sunday game, and you're kind of feeling like, man, if we sweep the Braves, we're maybe 5 out with 10 to go, or 4 out with 10 to go. And Benitez gives up a home run to Brian Jordan to lose the game, and that pretty much quelled any dream of a comeback.
I actually remember where I was for that. I was listening in the car leaving the Cross County Mall, the Cross County Shopping Center, and we were in the parking lot, and I heard that, and I didn't want the car to move yet because I wanted to hear the at bat. And of course, I should have let the car move. I should have turned the radio off. I should have, driven somewhere. I don't know. But
it's a good thing the car wasn't moving, because God only knows what would have happened.
Exactly. I would have referenced Don Aase a lot. I can tell you that much. But yeah, I remember sitting there in the parking lot facing Macy's and just listening. And I'm like, no, I just want to hear this at bat. And I'm like, oh, Brian Jordan. Why must it happen? So even in 2001, where there was a lot of there was magic sprinkles. There was definitely magic dust on that season.
Yeah.
And then we got Benitez out of it, is all I could say.
Yeah. Yep. Hey, but to Armando's credit, he's got a place in pop culture lore. If you remember, if you're a friend of a fan of the show Friends, there's an episode where Joey is talking to this girl that he likes, and they start talking about the Subway series. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, he's a Yankee fan, the girl's a Mets fan, and the girl says, if Benitez didn't blow that game one, we would have won the series. So there's that.
Oh my God. Oh no.
John doesn't even know where to go from there.
I am just, because we're already past 2001 with Benitez, so it's just like we went right off the cliff.
Because I don't want to spend time on him. I just can't. Although I will say this, to his credit, how do I say this? I don't even know how to put this in words, but like, he'll go down in history as being one of several Mets traded to the Yankees. I think we got Mike Stanton in return.
Oh, Mike Stanton.
Not mistaken. If I'm not mistaken.
Mike
I could
Stanton.
be wrong, but
yes, it's Mike Stanton.
I think what's more impressive is that the Yankees flipped him, and like after less than 2 weeks, they saw enough. They were like, we can't have him.
They
said, flipped him to Seattle.
Thanks, but no thanks.
I'm sorry. I thought that's pretty awesome. I don't know.
The one thing about Benitez, I'll say, and I've referenced this before in an earlier episode, is that these Mets teams are actually really good in video games because it's all about the stats and their ratings. So for whatever reason, Benitez didn't have, we didn't need a mental rating or a psychology rating. So coming in at like a 96 out of 100 or whatever, he was killer in video games.
Yep.
No problem. He'd blow he'd even hang him. He'd even hang the occasional, pitch. But this is the good thing about living in a fantasy world. Just so.
By the way, I'm looking at his stats. I didn't realize he had 47 saves for the 2004 Florida Marlins.
I don't want to be the one to say it or anything, but there might have been a little JUISE going.
I mean,
JUISE
1.29 ERA, 47 saves.
JUICE. Thank you.
Oh my God!
Correction before next week. Learning how to spell juice.
Listen. I blocked out Benitez once he got traded, but I didn't realize. I don't remember him closing down 47 games.
It's happened before with players after they left the Mets. It's just we don't need to talk about him. But we did dump him on the Yankees. The Yankees were like, I am not dealing with any of this, and moved on very, very quickly.
Absolutely. What do you say we go down? Speaking of going down quickly, I like to call him the transitional closer, because everyone remembers people like Benitez, Franco, Billy Wagner. I don't know that many people remember Braden Looper as a Met.
Braden Looper is the only closer that scared me right from free agent signing. So the other ones, whatever, the dominant coming in, okay, ended up whatever the opposite of growing on me was. They ended up falling out of favor. Looper coming in, I was like, this is not going to work. Because he was on the Marlins before this, right? Like He came from the Marlins, and I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this. This is our closer going into it, and 2004,
his stats would tell you that he was pretty dominant.
Yeah, he had great stats in 2004. But the 2005 is what I told you. That game always sticks out to me. Opening day. All the excitement coming from the Pedro Martinez signing and Carlos Beltran. And I knew where I was too. I was following that game on Gamecast. I was at my first job, sitting in my cubicle, following the game at Gamecast. And I don't know if there's a worse feeling than seeing, run scoring play. And then you're just waiting to see what number comes in. It's like 3-run score. Oh my God, forget about it.
Looper is the kind of pitcher that is normally very stingy with the home run. In 83 innings last year, he gave up at 5.
Griffey and Dunn, the only Reds with homers against Looper on this Reds team. Hit pretty good. Does he do it again? That's going to be gone. What a start for big number 44. A 2-home run day, the 10th time in his career he's had a multi-homer day. And the Goldust Twins are crossing home plate. We've got a brand new ball game, Chris. We're tied at 6. Randa today, 2 strikeouts and a double. There's a calmness in that young man, isn't there? Especially when he steps to the plate.
And confidence.
Yep. Hit pretty good to left. Does he have enough? Guess what? It is a walk-off homer. Welcome Joe Randa to Cincinnati. And the Reds have struck in the bottom of the 9th for 3. What a way to start 2005. Look out at home.
You keep hitting refresh. You keep hitting refresh. I'm like, this can't be happening.
Ball in play, run scoring play. Oh my God. Hopefully it's an RBI double play. I don't know what to tell you. But legendary opening day against the Reds at Great American Ballpark, ruining the debut of Pedro Martinez, had a solid start. So it just didn't get off to a good start.
I got to tell you, I kind of block out the 2004 Mets. So it's, I really don't have any memories of Braden Looper. To be very honest with you, he was just like vanilla. He was there. He was just there.
Yeah,
29 saves, 28 saves on the teams were bad. So I think that, contributed to not really watching the 9th inning because there weren't many 9th innings to watch.
I feel like he didn't have the lights out stuff, which as a closer always kind of makes you nervous. So the lights out guys you get nervous about because they're wild and they'll throw a lot of pitches and they're just, obsessed with the strikeout. He was a ball and play kind of guy. So that's always like, watch out because it's inevitable that there's a bleeder up the middle or, there's a chopper and that's the end of the ball game kind of thing.
I will tell you the to add, my beef with it's not quite Don Aase level beef, but my beef with Looper is, closer for 04-05, 2006 goes to the Cardinals. We all know how that ends, but his stats 9-3, 3.56 ERA. Just as a reliever, not a closer. And maybe it's just a matter of having the right role. But in the celebration at Shea Stadium, because he's such a classy guy, he's throwing his champagne with his teammates and just yelling, Jose, 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 in mocking fashion. And that earned him, in my mind, put him on the hit list. I shouldn't say the hit list. I don't want to be. He just put him on the crap list of people that I just can't stand. Very close to a Chase Utley, like that list.
Yeah, I mean,
I guess
it's
Chase Utley, but he would be on a list with Chase Utley. That's the best way I could describe him.
Yeah, I mean, we're totally sticks and stones right here, so don't worry about it. But that's someone who was on the team and then moves on and then wins, and especially in like a lesser capacity role, that's kind of a kick to me because I don't like that. Plus, 2006 NLCS is a little difficult to talk about. But, before he got there, he was the closer in 2004 and 2005, then the end of 2005, blew his AC joint out. So another quiet gentleman known as Aaron Heilman
you
started
have
closing
heat with Heilman. I actually liked Aaron Heilman. One bad pitch, and he's forever crucified.
I'll tell you, my heat with Aaron Heilman, and let this be known, this won't be a rant,
okay.
But the fact that the Mets did not want to give him up as compensation for Lou Piniella. That is my beef. It's not with Aaron Heilman. It's with whoever was management. The Tampa Bay Rays ended up giving up Randy Winn, who's probably a better player, I guess, than Aaron Heilman for the same compensation to get Lou Piniella over from the Mariners to the Rays. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't Jose Reyes. It was Aaron Heilman. And he always had boo-boo face because he wanted to be a starting pitcher. He ended up kind of in a solid 7th, 8th inning role, and he still wanted to be a starting pitcher. It's crazy. But then, you want to talk about it's always full circle with the Mets. When Looper signed for the 2006 season with the Cardinals, he was the setup guy for Jason Isringhausen.
Because that's just how it goes.
We once had Jason Isringhausen.
Well, I think we're getting close to the end, so I think we should wrap this with one last closer. And speaking of the end, I think we should also talk about the last game at Shea. So let's go rapid fire here. It leads us to Billy Wagner, who talk about the 2006 season. In some ways was kind of like the missing piece. At least I felt like it was the missing piece. I felt really good when we signed him. He was, from what I can recall, just the lights out, but was horrible that 2006 playoff.
Well, Billy Wagner was actually one of the few free agent closer signings that I was super excited about, because I was like, all right, this guy's solid. He's not as much of a head case as the previous guys we had. And then we'll talk about the future guys that were also head cases. But I was confident with Wagner. It's just something about his makeup. And then, then things in 2006 started,
real quick. I mean, because Billy Wagner has been a topical name this season. Do you think he's a Hall of Famer?
I think so. I don't know. I just feel like, a lot of it is dominance over a period of time. I guess that's kind of where it's in question. And I think we were of the age that he would be fresh on our mind, because he was when we were like really absorbing a lot of baseball and his dominance at the time. But maybe comparing that to the length of, career, maybe it's just not enough. It's kind of like you get the opposite too, where you get these journeymen that, hit around 270 and are around for 20 years. To me, it's kind of the opposite. Yeah, exactly. You get those types. So yeah, to me, it's interesting. I just remember his dominance, but I think it was a pretty short period of time.
Yeah, definitely. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Piazza had his number for years as the closer in Houston. But going back to the Mets, yeah, I mean, had a bad or subpar 2006 postseason. But 2007 we collapsed, but he had a really good season. I actually makes me wonder about that 07 season. 2008. He, I think, had the elbow surgery, which contributed to really our collapse for the second year in a row.
Yeah, he missed a lot of time there, and we had to scramble to find a replacement. I guess is always the theme of our. It seems like our playoff stretch run and the playoffs, we always have to find somebody.
That's true. That's true. You know what? That's a great point, because in 2006 we had to find Guillermo Mota. But he was lights out. He was lights out when we picked him up.
Guillermo
on the
Mota.
juice, but hey, that's fine.
Guillermo Mota probably didn't put the juice in the right place, as far as I'm concerned. Between him and Jorge Sosa and Bartolome Fortunato, I mean, not even talking about closers. Now we're talking about setup guys. Don't get me started. Don't get me started on the setup guys.
So, the one thing that I'll say, like, before we get to like that infamous game, I kind of forgot about it, to be very honest with you, until I read your notes. But the beef that he had in 2008, many people thought that it was directed at Carlos Beltran when he just had some comments after a 1-0 loss. And I think I remember, I think LaDuca, maybe that was 07, but LaDuca was also frustrated that, like, it was always the Billy Wagners, LaDucas of the world that had to be the spokespeople of the team. I remember LaDuca at one point saying, these guys speak English, believe me.
Yeah.
And I was like, oof.
Yeah.
Clubhouse is falling apart here.
Yeah, I think if Wagner was an active player in this day and age with Twitter and things, probably wouldn't be a good combination because he didn't seem to hold back. And it was interesting how his career kind of moved on after that too. But we could talk about that faithful game first before we get there.
So for those that don't know, so yes, so 06 heartbreak loss, 07 7 games with 17 to go. Total collapse. 2008, last year at Shea Stadium. Can't happen again, can it? I mean, the Mets are in the lead. Got to run. And sure enough, they choke. Johan Santana pitches a phenomenal game on the second to last game of this season. We were there. We talked about that in the archives.
By the way, we were there with Ant, who has not been mentioned yet. Thank God we got that in there.
Ant's gonna have to start paying us for sponsorship. And then we went, to to the next game, which is the last game of the season. Need to win to force a playoff. If I'm not mistaken, the Brewers are leading. We struggle, because we have no closer. They bring in your man, Scott Schoenweiss.
Oh, God, too many of these guys we're mentioning today.
Who gives up a homer to give the Marlins a lead. And then they bring in Luis Ayala, who, listen, as a pickup from Washington in late August, he had 9 saves that year, which, all down the stretch for the Mets. And so you're thinking, okay, wow, maybe we struck a little lightning in the bottle. Maybe this is our Guillermo Mota. But unfortunately, Luis Ayala gives up a run, inning and a third, gives up a run. I guess he'll go down in history as giving up the last Mets earned run in Shea Stadium history.
That's crazy because it's like he was so good down the stretch, but you just knew there's only so long that this could last for,
because he was so bad.
And it's just been a tradition for the Mets to rely so heavily on their bullpens. So once you get, that number of appearances and everything going, you're like, oh, and it happened recently, with our current situation. And it's just like, you can't just have one guy in the bullpen that is your go-to guy.
Yeah, definitely. Going back to Billy Wagner, though, he basically that was it. He came back from his elbow injury, but goes on to get traded to the Red Sox, I think it was. Or
yeah, it was to the Red Sox. It was a little bit of a weird situation late in the 2009 season, and there was a trade kind of in the works for him, and the royal they pronouns pal, the world, the media thought he would invoke his no trade clause, but instead he did agree to be traded to the Red Sox for Chris Carter. Is that the animal, Chris Carter?
The animal, once again getting a mention.
And Eddie Laura, who sounds like a fashion designer, with the added stipulation that the Red Sox could not exercise his option. So he was just down with getting traded for the last 2 months of the season, pretty much. And then there was actually a whole thing that went on with him. So Atlanta signed him afterwards. And because of the whole arbitration piece, the Red Sox actually got a first-round pick out of their 2-month rental of Billy Wagner. So very interesting, but his career fell off very quickly.
Yeah, but not bad in Atlanta. He's 7-2 with a 1.43 ERA. So I guess it didn't fall off too bad. I didn't realize that. Why do I not remember that?
That's something for those GMs out there. If you get a Met like the year or two after, they have 1 year, one good year in them, that they'll be lights out. I don't know if it's,
Look at that. 7-2, 1.43 ERA with 37 saves. You know what? He is a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, there we go. We got you over the edge.
You put me over. That's it. I'm sold.
I mean, he was really dominant. That I do remember about him. And enter Sandman, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, what can I tell you?
Is it the original? Always the beef between.
Yeah, I think he had it like 2.5 days before Mariano Rivera. I think that's
another fun fact about Billy Wagner, though, is he was one of 6 pitchers that combined for a no-hitter in Yankee Stadium.
Oh, the old combined pitcher no-hitter.
Yeah, so there's that too.
I followed that one on the radio.
Now he definitely belongs in the Hall of Fame. You have sold me.
That's it. We're going to give out Billy Wagner patches pretty soon. I think that's what's going to happen.
All right, John. So, now that I'm going to probably have to drink heavily for the rest of the night, I'm glad we did this during the day. That was fun going down memory lane. I feel better now that I've ranted about Don Aase.
Yeah, we left a bit of a cliffhanger of what's coming after, 2008 or so.
There's not much, folks. There's not much, folks, after that. So we'll save Yuri's Familia for another day.
Yeah, one nice thing I did see when I was poking around is that I completely forgot about a couple of ceremonies that John Franco was a part of that I didn't realize. Okay. Mariano Rivera threw the first pitch to John Franco. I guess that was his last go around, his last year in the league, Mariano Rivera. So that was cool.
Now, please direct your attention to our Citi Field pitcher's mound for tonight's ceremonial first pitch. to be thrown by New York sports icon Mariano Rivera. Our ceremonial catcher this evening is the Mets' all-time saves leader, John Franco. Mariano, it's your pitch.
And then the 10-year anniversary of 9/11, John Franco actually pitched to Mike Piazza.
First pitch, and welcome 2 stars from the 2001 New York Mets, who along with their teammates were dedicated in their support of our beautiful city's emergency personnel and victims' families in the wake of the 9/11 attacks. A New York City native, pitcher John Franco. And catcher Mike Piazza. John, it's your pitch.
So that was 9/11, 2011. So we've got the 20-year coming up this year. Mets Yankees. That'll definitely be interesting. It's going to be a lot to go through, but
I'm just going to eat my cashews, my friend.
That's it. In the meantime, what we have to deal with is stay tuned for whenever we do part 2.
It's going to take me a while to recover from this one, though.
Of what we call the closing parade.
So let me ask you, John, out of all these names that listed, is there anyone that stands out?
I still feel that Billy Wagner stands out for me. If we're talking about like a 1 inning kind of guy, like out of this group, and maybe it's because I didn't follow John Franco when he was really super dominant, but I would give Billy Wagner the ball if I needed one solid inning out of this current group right here.
Okay, all right, I'd go with that. I would go with that, actually, out of that list of names.
Future Hall of Famer Billy Wagner.
Because he's a future Hall of Famer. Exactly, ladies and gentlemen. Exactly.
Oh, man.
All right, John. Well, I don't know what we have on tap for next week, but for folks listening, follow us on Twitter. What is that? It's BTB Podcast 2. Where you'll get a sneak peek of what's going on. Or if you want to give us feedback, just shout out. And beyond that, I don't know, John. What do you have to say?
It may be the weekend, but still, drive home safe, everybody.
Thank you.